It is. It's such an honour to meet you, M'hammed Kilito. It has been a long time in coming. I have observed you from afar, and I'm really glad we've got this fabulous excuse of having hopefully one of many conversations to come in celebration of your being a winner of the Sheikh Saoud Al Thani Project Award grant in 2023. So congratulations, and it's a pleasure to meet you, M'hammed.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. I have been also following your work for a long time, and I'm so happy that we're having this opportunity to exchange about Sheikh Saoud Al Thani Award and Tasweer and Before It's Gone project.
It's well, I'm a bit giddy with excitement, so I think I'm just going to ask you the first question, so I get a sense of who you are and where you're coming at, which is I'd really love to know when your sort of earliest recollections of photography and where it sort of comes into your life, like when it's a thing, something you see.
Yeah, I think it's always a difficult question because I think there are so many different moments that we interact with photography. And if I remind well, my first experience with photography was in the basement of my grandmother. So my father used to have an photo enlarger and papers and old photographs. And I used to go there all the time and play. My dad had stopped at that time to develop and print his own photographs, but everything was still there, and I was amazed about what I used to find, and specifically old photographs he was taking. I don't think he was a good photographer, but he was a good developer. So I think the picture was of good quality, but I think he loved the process of developing and printing himself, and I can completely understand how magical it is. This is something I had the chance to experience way later in my life. And then the other experience with photography is while we were traveling with my dad. He used to have a film reflex camera, and I used to take it and take photographs in these beautiful places we used to travel as family around Morocco. And then when it started to get serious is when I went to Sadi in Montreal, and I was spending a lot of time doing galleries and museums. Every Sunday, I just have this tour that I do every Sunday, going to different galleries and museums and seeing work and being very, 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 very emotional about what I was seeing. And I always thought that I would love to do that also, to try to express ideas through photography. And I was studying engineering at the University of Ottawa, and a friend came to me telling me that there is scholarships offered to students to take courses in photography in the Ottawa School of Art. Went there, I applied, I got a scholarship, and I did this program called the Photometro program. It's a one-year program. And this was where I was taking classes with photographers, learning more about the process, learning more about how to develop visual narratives, being exposed in to so many photo books. And this is something we can discuss later, but it's very important in my image education. And little by little, I got hooked. So the only thing I was doing is reading about photography, doing research over the internet, going to agencies, photo agencies websites. And I felt that it started to become very important because I was investing a lot of time in it. But at that time, I was a student at university. I worked after in advertising for 3 years. And I was like, I don't have a body of work to be comfortable to start a career in photography. But I kept thinking about it all the time, thinking about it. And one day that's it. I'm just going to drop everything and give 2 years to my life to photography and see if I can make something work. If it works, it's perfect. If it doesn't work, I will have no regrets when I'm going to be 70 or 80 years old. Say to myself, I always wanted to be a photographer, but I never tried. And thanks God, it has been going well since then. It's now almost 7 years.
You make it sound so simple. Okay, I want to go back to one of the through lines that appeared as you were talking, really from the beginning, is the idea of the relationship of photography and travel and the experience of being somewhere, because it's one of the qualities that I think is that I feel within your work is a sense of being present, like the sort of almost bodily experience of photography, of being somewhere. But I wonder if you could talk more about that, about photography as a way of being present in different situations, or being present in your own life.
Yeah, that's a very important question, because when I thought about becoming a photographer, I moved from Canada to Morocco, because every time I had an idea about a photographic project, it was about Morocco. It's so rich. And I know that you had the experience to work in Morocco too. It's a beautiful country. It's so diverse. There is so many contrasts. The geographies are so different. The way that people speak, the way that people dress, the way that people eat, so the places where they live. It's so rich and so diverse. And every time I was thinking about a photographic project, I felt that my culture of origin took me back. So for me, it was very, very simple that if I want to become a photographer, I will go back to Morocco. On the other side, we also have to think about the fact that there is no many documentary photographers based in Morocco that are doing long-term project dedicated to socio-political issues, for example. And I felt a kind of a responsibility to come to Morocco and maybe to show the country in a different way. And I feel very connected to the culture, to the people here. And I think there is so many stories we can tell about Moroccan people and the challenges they're facing, different realities, so many successful stories. And as I said earlier, I feel a responsibility to engage through my photographic work, messages, reflections, and maybe topics that are somehow overlooked by the media. And I have been focused only on Morocco. I had a couple of residencies abroad, but the main projects I have been working on for the last couple of years were in Morocco.
So let's talk more about that, because there's so much there in terms of what you see when it is your culture of origin or the culture that you know, and how you think that sort of impacts on the way that you photograph, or what photography does within. Maybe that's the question: is why do you think it is that it feels so of great urgency to you to use photography to capture the granular of the culture that you profoundly know?
So if we want to understand a little better my practice, I studied humanities. I have a master's in political science, so I have been interested in doing research about social and political questions and themes. So previously I have been working on the sociology of work, on social determinism, on the situation of youth in Morocco, and now I have been working on climate change, specifically on oasis. So what I do is I do academic research on the topics I choose and feel that are the right topics to focus on. And after I do the research, I take my camera and go on the field to kind of verify the veracity of the research I have been doing. And the way the style or the way I'm taking the photographs is somehow also dictated by the tool I'm using. So I'm using a medium format camera. All the pictures I'm taking have to be taken on a tripod, and I can't take any fast movement happening. So to take my photograph, I have to measure with my light meter. I have to frame. I have to open the tripod. I have to try to seize the images I feel more connected to. Sometimes I decide that it's not worth it, so I end up not taking the picture. But I basically need 2 minutes to take the picture, and the result of, for example, the photography I have in Before It's Gone series, it's very silent. It's very geometrical. It's very frontal, very poetic. And I feel that it's dictated by the tool somehow also. If I was using a small camera that I can shoot fast, I probably would have another result, maybe with more people, because in Morocco we have a lot of people. When you go to the souk, when you go to the Medina, there are a lot of people. But in my pictures, it's it's not portrayed this way. And I find it fascinating also, because a lot of people are asking me. There is a couple of other documentary photographers that also use this kind of cameras and end up having more or less the same kind of images. And people ask, so where are the people? What's happening? I'm like, yeah, but this is the choice we have made because we decided to work with this kind of cameras.
Yeah, and it's sort of the two things go hand in hand, don't they? It's like they're kind of the restrictions of the technologies you choose, but they're also the possibilities. It's the frame. It sets a certain frame to the way that you work photographically.
Yeah, and also I really like the process because it's very contemplative, you know, like you look into things and you're choosing and you're taking your time and you're thinking. And when you have like a digital camera, sometimes you're just like shooting so much because you can. But while you're working with film, you're like, okay, maybe I will not have enough film, so I have to think if it's worth it, if not worth it. And the whole process makes the whole experience very, very interesting.
And I think it makes the pictures very concentrated. Like they feel like a real distillation of a particular situation or encounter. Talking of which, why don't we start the slideshow and you can tell us more about the project that you brought to the application process for the Sheikh Saoud Al Thani Awards and really captured all of our jurors' imagination. I mean, it was like, in terms of, not to make you uncomfortable, but talking about where you're positioned within the project awards. The project awards is really open to anyone who's doing really serious projects and who's at a point where they really need some support to make this project enter into its kind of full-blown manifestation or its next iteration. And obviously, you know, we've awarded 8 project grant awards this year. It's a really amazing constellation of photographers across the region. Obviously, you are the most established photographer within that. And what's been really delightful is photographers have said to me who've won the awards, you know, part of the honor is having my work acknowledged, but the other is being in the same group as M'hammed Kilito, because it's like, in many ways, it's like on you know, in one sense, it's like you don't need an organization like تصوير to do what you do. You're gonna do it. But it was so exciting to all of us that you had applied, and it sets the benchmark and the context for everyone else, some of whom are unknown photographers or really just emerging now or producing their first really serious body of work. To be in the context regionally with your work is really an honor for them as well. Just to sit on the same list as you is really important. So anyway, so I just wanted to set that as a context for us looking at this project, because it's really fully formed in so many ways. But we will get to what I'd also like us to talk to when we're looking at the work is really what all of the signs are to you about how this project will grow. Because that's the other thing. It's like you mentioned about the sort of technologies being these kind of really kind of very fertile restraints on how you might compose a photograph or contemplate a photograph. But then there's the other side of it, is your choice of subject, which you're going to tell us about, is vast, like it's endless, it's infinite what you can do. So let's have a look at the work and just talk to us about what it is, and also we'll come to where it's heading. Where's the next steps for this amazing project?
Thank you so much, Charlotte. I'm also very honored to be among these wonderful photographers. Many of them are good friends, and we had the chance to talk this morning when you announced the awardees. I can't express with words how deeply grateful I am. Yes, so let's talk about Before It's Gone project. The idea of the project came to me when I was invited in 2016 to attend an artist residency in an oasis called Oasis of Tirmert. It's the first oasis we find on the Atlantic coast. By being there with some other artists and curators, I felt for the first time deep connections to the oasis and to the nomadic culture, but also I was exposed through the inhabitants of the oasis to the challenges they were facing, specifically about the impact of climate change, which I wasn't very aware about. The oasis is a very sensitive ecosystem to drought, to desertification, to high temperatures, to the lack of water, and all of this is interrelated. So when I went there, I started to understand that there are so many points that are interrelated between them. And this is how we are facing degradation of oasis. By doing some research and finding some statistics by the Ministry of Agriculture, I realized that in Morocco we have already lost the 2/3 of the oasis during the last century, and I was like so shocked about this information. And then I kept in touch with the inhabitants of the oasis. And one day they contacted me telling me that they woke up one day and there is so many greenhouses of bananas and avocados, which are agriculture that is not adapted to the ecosystem. And they asked me if I knew any journalists that can come and document what was happening. So indeed, I put them in touch with some journalists that I know. And then I followed up with them and they told me that no one had came. So I spoke to the journalists and tried to understand why no one went to Tirmert. Then I realized that it takes them 2 days to go to the oasis, 2 days to come back, maybe 2 days or 3 days to document and do interviews, which doesn't cover the amount of money they make as a journalist. And then I was like, these people are going through all that. They're marginalized, they're isolated, and maybe I have a role to play. So I started going, and then a fire happened in 2020 in the same oasis. They lost almost 40 hectares, and the oasis is 100 hectares due to fires. And this was the start of the project. So the idea of the project is to document life in oasis, document the beauty of the oasis with a focus on climate change. So as I always do, I spend a lot of time. For me, it's very important to do long-term projects because through long-term project, I'm able to establish strong relation with the inhabitants. I'm able to explain to them the importance of being part of the project. I'm able to explain to them why it's important for them to help me. And I'm not promising anything. I'm just saying that I will try to do my best. And this doesn't depend on me, as you already know, when it depends on juries, it depends on festivals, it depends, we do the work we can do. We try to diffuse the project as much as we can, and then we don't know what will happen. In this case, thanks to God, everything is going well, and I'm able somehow to enhance the voices of these people that became friends, that are fighting with the means they have to preserve and protect this important oasis that historically, culturally, and economically have played a very important role in North Africa.
Yeah. How do you? So you describe. I mean, in the process, you described what you told us earlier, that you start with the research in terms of what is the scenario. How in terms of a subject as vast as climate change, or as full of foreboding as climate change, how do you kind of keep your feet on the ground with a project? How do you stop it from being so overwhelming? How do you find the photographs that articulate for others?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Okay.
Yeah, basically how I work is by traveling. So I have been visiting for almost like 50 oases. I've been traveling from the Atlantic coast to the Algerian border, and then I was doing the Valley of Ziz and Valley of Daraa. I start photographing. I go the first time. I explain to people what I'm doing. I stay in an oasis when I feel there is things to photograph. Then when I feel I'm done, I go to another oasis. Sometimes I don't feel comfortable because I feel observed, and photographing in Morocco is not very easy because you feel that you're observed by the people, they're curious. Then there is the authority, then there is the police. Sometimes you feel that you're chased. So what I do is just like, I do a field trip just to understand where are the oases where I will be focusing on. So this is how I start. I start gathering a couple of images. Then I receive the scanned films, and I see what I have and what is missing to tell the story. And then I feel, okay, this is, maybe I should go to M'hammed Kilito, which is always in the valley of Daraa, and go to M'hammed Kilito because I know that they have issues of desertification. Then I go there, I work on desertification. Then I'm like, okay, I'm missing stories of women because we are talking about a very conservative region in Morocco, and women doesn't want to be photographed. Then I have to put more effort to find the women, to talk to them. We are in a patriarchal society, so I need to pass through men before the parents, the brother, the father, the husband, and little by little, I'm adding layers to the story to make it stronger. This is the process I have been doing for this project, which is not done for the moment. I'm still working on it, and I'm trying also to explore what are the positive solutions that we can find through the researchers, the activists, the state program run by the Ministry of Agriculture. For me, this is how I would like to end the project, because yeah, it's great to tell the story of the people, how they're having issues and trying to face the effect of climate change in the oasis. But for me, it's also important to finish the story on a positive note with hope, to say that there are still solutions that we can find, and there is still possibilities of saving this wonderful islands of greenery in the middle of the desert. So this will be my next step of taking the camera again and going to the oasis in southern Morocco to try to understand what are the best practices, what are the state programs, who are the associations, who are the activists, and what kind of work they are doing in the oasis, to also propose some solutions when I'm touring again in the oasis. I'm planning to also do projections and have like a space of discussion with the inhabitants.
That sounds amazing. Are you full of hope? Can you see that there are strategies that long term will at least remediate some of the damage already done?
Yeah, I think we have no choice but having hope, because if we don't have hope, nothing is possible. But I think as human, we're very ingenious. We always find solutions, and the only thing we have to do, and this is something I'm trying to do through the project, is just to educate, to share with the people from the region, but also people abroad, about what is the situation in Morocco. And I'm very aware also that maybe through photography we can't do much. And this is why I'm going beyond photography. So photography is there to just show and document the situation on the field. But what I'm trying to do is also work with scientists, with researchers, with activists, and trying also to develop programs of image education and be surrounded with people that can help. Because as a photographer, I don't think I'm going to be able to bring real change, but being surrounded with bad people from different specializations and different fields and different expertise, we can all together try at least to help and make it sustainable for the people living in the oasis.
I think I'm right in saying you said that 2016 was the point at which this became a subject and an area of study and research for you. And I similarly had my environmental crisis moment in 2016 and worked in terms of storytelling with an environmental studio here in Los Angeles, which is mainly at the moment focused on water and green space and the LA River. And I learned some really big things. I think partly the most important thing that I learned, that nobody is an expert on the future. And it actually takes all of our combined skills, whether we're storytellers or scientists or engineers, to collectively try and come up with the solutions to our profound problems. And I think I feel that when I see projects where it's not a over dramatization or an oversimplification of the issues. Like, I'm sure my kind of learning from 2016 onwards informs the way that I read your pictures. And one of the things that I see in your pictures is, I mean, you have an amazing capacity for creating pictures with visual intrigue, where things don't quite add up, or they add up in such an unusual way. Like, I mean, we're looking at this picture here. Like, you could be picking the conventions of photojournalism or kind of the sort of drama of photojournalism to describe the fact that it's out of water here. But instead you create this incredibly curious photograph that holds my attention for way, way longer than a photograph which I might actually swerve, which is clearly saying this is a human disaster. And I wondered if, I guess my question is whether you're conscious of that you create pictures that hold attention, which is probably the biggest challenge in terms of being a storyteller in the field of climate crisis, is how do you hold people's attention?
It's very hard question to answer for me, to be honest with you, Charlotte, because you know how when you work on a photographic project, you always keep seeing these photographs and editing them and doing another edit and doing another edit, that they don't have this distance to have this kind of judgment about them. For me, it's something that is, you know, like becoming very natural for me. I work and I see something like, okay, this is something I need to take as a photograph. So maybe at my beginnings, I was very conscious about the technicalities of taking a photograph and composing it. But at the moment, it became something that is like an extension of my soul, an extension of my eye, of my hand, and I just like try through a certain aesthetics to send a message. For example, this photograph of the water tower. I'm just like driving and I see this beautiful water tower in the middle of nowhere, and then I ask people in the villages, and they explain to me that because they're so far from the center of the state in Morocco, that they have to find solution themselves. So what they do to build this water tower, they gather money themselves, and they're like poor people. Each one gives like 15 euros, 20 euros, and they end up building this water tower to have water there in moments of drought, so at least we can drink. It's such an incredible process also of discovering the stories, and what I really loved also being in the Oasis is that like everyone was very kind and very generous for their time. They spent with me days, taking me around, explaining to me what's there, and they are super happy when I tell them that the project will be shown in Qatar or in Saudi Arabia or in Amsterdam. They feel very proud because they were part of the process, and without them, nothing would have been possible, because this is a collaborative project. And it is possible only because I have been spending almost 3 years working on it, and this is why I always explain to many photographers that I discuss with, that contact me, that long-term projects are very important, because this is the only way that you can go deep in the story and have the right material and the right information to make the project stronger.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I also really loved about the presentation, this is just such a remarkable photograph. It's just remarkable. Did you know that when you made this photograph?
I did. I'm shooting film. I never know what I will have at the end. That's the magic of it. I forget actually what kind of pictures I took. You know, I have like 20, 30 films. I go to the Oasis for like 20 days. I come back. I send them to the laboratory in Spain. Then I wait for 20 days or 25 days to receive them back. And then I'm like, oh my God, I just can't believe that it worked, because you never know what can happen with film. So that's yeah, I think it's a very beautiful and haunting photograph at the same time, because it's probably just the brief of the whole project. I just like see it as if this man is praying to the water to come back, surrounded by the dunes of the Sahara Desert. Yeah, just randomly, I'm walking there, and he's telling me there is this well in the middle of the dunes. You want to go to the dunes? I'm like, I'm not interested to go to the dunes. Is there any other interesting parts we can go to photograph? And he's insisting. I'm like, okay, then we go, and he's looking in the water, and I take this picture. And yeah,
it's amazing. I think one of the things I was going to say is the way in which I'm talking to you now. I'm getting an impression that these are kind of really singular pictures, like and that sort of concentration of a whole set of conversations and getting to know someone and going somewhere to a place that you didn't pick, and all of these things that sort of go into this kind of almost unique set of militating factors that all come together on this sheet of film, a photographic film. It is totally magical, I have to say.
No, honestly, and I'm sure you know that very well, Charlotte. It's you have an idea about the project, you go there, and it goes in so many different directions that you can't control. And sometimes it's even more interesting. You find someone, you talk to him, and you find that his story is very interesting, and that maybe you should focus on him instead of the first idea you had and the people you were chasing.
Right.
And this is also the beauty of the process, that you let go and you let the experience come to you, and the people come to you, and the stories come to you. And by doing that so many times, you end up having a body of work that can tell the story that you've been hoping to tell and share with the people. And this is what we're doing today.
And also then you've got one of the other reasons I think we were all so impressed by the portfolio is you're clearly a really good editor and sequencer of the work, because it is a long-term project. I mean, I think one would guess by just the kind of concentration of it that this isn't something that was made over 2 weeks or 3 months, that it's got a depth to it. But to put together a story which is actually a whole set of encounters and experiences and decisions and chance encounters, and actually make that work as a sequence, it's like another thing entirely. It's not just getting the film, it's what you do.
I'm laughing because before doing the editing, I was completely lost. I had no idea which people to choose. And this is also another part. It's important to have people that know your work, that you trust, that are able to tell you the things that maybe you don't want to hear. And this so I reached out to a couple of friends, to Saateri, to Nicole Sobaki, to Fathi Sahrawi, to Abdul Shannan. And what I'm looking for is people that can do the edit without knowing about the story, visual edit, just by pictures. This is something yes. I do with a couple of editors, and then I do another edit with people to whom I send my description of project, to whom I send the captions. And you have completely different ways of doing the edit. And then I start sensing that there is some sequences from each one of the edits that I'm interested in. So I start stealing three pictures from here, 2 pictures from here, and start working with it. But it's a long process. It took me so much time. And then also you adapt it to the festivals, to the prizes, to the awards you're sending to, because they all have different identities. They all are looking for different ones. So I have so many different edits, and I keep editing. And wow. The edit I have today is completely different from the edit I sent to you. But it's definitely something that is very important, and at the same time very difficult to do. How can you tell a story by putting images one next to the other, and how the story changes completely if you have another set of images together? And they are professional editors that do this job. And I'm always curious also when I work with magazines and editors to see, because I send them a bunch of images and then they select the images that they're interested in, and then we have to discuss it, and then I'm not happy sometimes, then I'm not happy. And we're trying to find a middle way so that we're all happy, and then we end up with so many different possible editings, and I find it so fascinating, and I love it. I love it. I can spend hours and hours trying to do edits.
It's a real testimony to you that you kind of like, you've broken, even if you had some resistance, you've broken down the resistance to the idea of allowing other people to let you see your work through their eyes, I think, or through their readings. And I call that, I mean, like, I know that it's a real challenge, particularly on a project that's very heartfelt, to lose the biography of the making of the pictures. If a picture's really hard won and people aren't getting it, like, to actually be okay with that, to be almost like in third person with your own work is such an important part of the process, right? And
absolutely.
yeah.
This is something I have no problems with. I mean, if
Right.
someone have the right arguments to tell me that this picture doesn't have a spot in the sequence, I remove it. So I don't have this attachment that many photographers have, because I spent 3 days with this guy that I really liked, and I loved the picture, and it was so emotional when I took it, and I had so many difficulties in convincing him to take the picture, so now I really want it to be in my sequence. No, I'm not this kind of photographer, or not anymore. If it makes sense to remove it, I remove it without any problem. And this is something important, Charlotte, when we don't talk about it much as photographers. The work we do, we don't do it alone. We do it with a lot of people working with us, that support us, that we exchange with them when we are going through difficult times, when we are photographing, people that help us edit, people that help us in the writing of our biographies, our resumes, our grants.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, to be successful as a photographer, you definitely have to be surrounded by people you trust, that people that can tell you the truth about your work and can be harsh with you. And sometimes, like, people tell me, oh, we're sorry, we're harsh. No, like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. If you're just telling me, I love the project, it's really good, I'm not getting anything from it. I'm not going to be improving. I'm not going to be advancing. I'm not going to be learning. And it's never-ending process of learning. I think we always have to be humble. We always have to look forward to people that are having more experience as photographers. And this is something I was aware about very early. And thanks to God, I'm today surrounded by people that really push me further and help me to become a better photographer. And this is something very important, because sometimes I see some photographers, they have a grant, they have an exhibition, and they think they're already there. But this is very key in the industry we're working on. Stay humble and keep working hard, and inshallah everything will be all right.
It's really good advice, and there's so much to say here. I mean, I think of you also as somebody who is an interlocutor, who not only kind of seeks that, but models a way of being a photographer that's really important to many people. And I think also about your collective, the COS Collective, and the idea of acknowledging the sort of the power of collective work and collective aiming, which is something I really appreciate, and is why I've sort of gravitated towards photography. Like, I think that when I look back to why it was photography became my subject, the sort of central axis of my way of being in the world and understanding, it's actually because of the community. Like, it's just much more friendly than contemporary art, which I think of as like, genuinely, I think it's much more accepting of where somebody's coming from, that you've come from somewhere else to be in this thing. And it is a cultural construct, but it's like, I really treasure it. Like, I have no problem with it being a construct, because it's really done by the many. And we all know that the kind of way in which photography has appeared within the context of contemporary art is full of so many paradoxes, like separating the few from the many. And it's like, I would much rather be with the many, because I think that's where the real conversations around photography happens, because it's a really collective way of visualizing what we live through and our experiences and the stories that need to be told, right? It's a counter-arguing against media, and it's a counter-arguing against a pyramid that separates the few from the many. And I think that's why I love photography.
Yeah, I truly believe that, and I even sense it more stronger in the Arab region and with my fellow African photographers, because of the lack of opportunities in the region for photography. We tend to be very united, and we're very close to the Collective 220 from Algeria. We're even doing a project together with Cause Collective, like all these photographers from the Arab Documentary Photography Program. There is something that is happening, and I'm very happy that تصوير and Sheikh Saoud Thani award is here today for us, because we need also the recognition from our own people. And before, we always like trying with Europe, with North America, looking for grants, exhibitions, and we tend also to meet in these countries while we all come from the Arab region. But lately, things are shifting. I was in Amman in festival, lately, beautiful festival in Amman, run by Linda Al-Khouri. I was in Cairo Photo Week in Cairo lately also. There is this project we're doing with Helvetia and Cause Collective and Collective 220, and I had been to Algeria for the first time. I also had this project about Oasis, which is a continuation of the project in Morocco, in Al-Ula in Saudi Arabia. And I'm like so happy it's happening between us, among us, with people from the region, and this is something that is very important, and it makes me very, very, very emotional to see all these beautiful young photographer, so determined and successful, and understanding also the importance of the photography today, because we have to remember that photography in the region was I will talk more about the experience I have in Morocco, about, like, for example, the colonial postal cards, and how the image of Orientalism and Romanticism has been vehicled through photography, and how we are today changing the image of the region through the work we are doing. And this is something that is extremely important.
Yeah, it's beyond important. I feel like you've just going to stop the slide presentations to make your face bigger. I feel like you've answered my final question to you, but I think I'll say it again, because it's such a learning experience listening to you, which is, تصوير is relatively new. This is the 3rd year of its grant awards, and one would say its 2nd stroke 1st biennial is happening right now. I say stroke 1st because the 2021 biennial was kind of hidden under the lockdowns of COVID. So it was like a dress rehearsal for 2023. And but we are young, and I would really appreciate any advice you would give to us in terms of what تصوير needs to do to truly support this exceptional moment in Western Asia and North African photography.
I honestly think you're already doing a lot, and that's no. I'm just like, I'm so happy that تصوير is existing, and that you have this opportunity to bring amazing photographer. Salih Bashir also, I forgot to mention him before, very, very good friend also. These wonderful photographers to be able to show their work in Doha, and be able to meet cultural actor from the region. I'm not familiar about what happens when the Biennale or the festival is taking place, but something that I think is very important. We don't have many schools of photography in the region. We don't have a lot of image education programs in the region, and I think this is definitely something important that you should maybe look at, maybe during the Biennale, or have a program or a grant with mentors that can follow up with the photographers for like 6 months project. I really think that this is something we are working on that in our region as photographers, because unfortunately there is not many cultural actors that are thinking about this kind of things. But we feel the lack of image education, that a lot of people through Instagram are thinking as a single image, thinking about likes. But the importance will come through long-term projects, where we're building sequences of images, where they can show their work in important festivals, where they can get more recognition, and not only have this kind of virtual career through Instagram. I don't know if you have, tell me, Charlotte, I don't know if you have already a program, if you're inviting people from different institutions in photography, let's say from National Geographic, from Seven Agency, from Magnum, from Prince Claus. Those people have the experience where they can come, do a presentation, just establish also some networking hubs. So the photographers can also have opportunities to meet these people and learn more about how they work. But I will stress as much as I can about image education, and I'm sure that you're also aware about that.
Yes, thank you. And yes, you're absolutely right that those are the two kind of key areas that I think Taswir, two of the three key areas that I hope Taswir really develops over the next couple of years. It felt, I mean, it's not really modesty, it's just the truth of the journey, that I think we felt that 2023 really was like our first biennial. We needed to demonstrate our character and our tonality, and not invite everyone to come and, earn our place at the table. So I think 2025, the next biennial, will be where precisely our actions will be really about congregating a lot of people who are really instrumental in thinking through structurally what is needed and where the focus needs to be. I'm about to go back, and we're doing our sort of intention setting at the end of the Taswir 2023 festival. And that is a return to asking local photographers what they truly need in order to begin to create the infrastructure that could possibly be considered a creative industry of image making in Qatar. Because that's the other side of it for us, is where the local beats the regional, and making sure that's a really excellent pairing. In terms of education, yes, for Taswir, as part of the creative hub for Qatar museums, education and the different places that is an important remit and opportunity is something that we're looking at with a broader range of creative projects, including sort of high school level, what would be the skill set that you would set a very young generation off. Photography is a very broad church, but I think that's the really interesting thing about the way that we've defined Taswir, is it's really open to what is being made by practitioners at different ages and at different stages, rather than saying photography is like having a sort of semantic control over the idea of photography. It's really about what is being created, and it's already here, right? I mean, that's the beauty, I think, that of my journey with Taswir, is it's already here in terms of really intense, layered, deep practices. They're here, and it's really about creating a structure that truly supports that long term, and that we keep going, basically.
Yeah, I wish you all the best for everything you guys are working on. But yeah, I definitely think that it's a symbiosis between the work that is being done by the photographers and the structures that are trying to help, to push, to show the work, to gather also the photographers. And I think also there is something that is important, is to maybe take advantage of the other experiences that we are witnessing in the regions, because I think there are so many people that have been working in the shadows for many, many years, that have the experience, that know the photographer, that can do mentorships for the photographers, And I have so many people now talking to you in mind because they were struggling. Sometimes there is financial issues. They start, then they stop, then they continue, then they start again. But those people, we have the people that can probably help build the image education and the structures that we are looking for in the future.
Amazing. M'hammed, it's been an amazing opportunity just to talk to you. I'm going to draw this conversation to a close, and may it be the first of many. Thank you so much for your time today, and many congratulations on the award.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I hope to see you very soon.
That's amazing. I've enjoyed this so much. I can't,
Me too.
We've just talked for 50 minutes. It was supposed to
Okay.
be 30. I know, but it was like really fast. And you're great. You're really great.
Thank you. You too. You are. I'm so happy. You know, we when you were photographing your project in Morocco, you met with my friend Hisham Bouzid, right?
No.
Did you photograph in Morocco? Yes. No.
No.
Okay, I'm confused. Forget about it.
Well, no. I don't photograph.
Ah, I'm sorry. I got confused. I don't know why I thought you photographed.
No, I'm really old school. I'm like no. I don't take photographs. I don't collect photographs either.
So explain to me more. I thought you were a photographer. Explain to me more what you do, Charlotte.
Well, I'm a writer and curator on photography.
Okay.
So I am, I started about over 30 years ago at Victoria and Albert Museum. I was a curator of photographs at the V&A for 12 years, and then I was head of programming at the Photographers Gallery in London. Okay. And then I moved to America about 18 years ago, and I was head of cultural programming for Art and Commerce, which was a big photo agency, which started with Robert Mapplethorpe and Stephen Meisel. Okay. It's really fascinating. And then I was head of photography at LA County Museum of Art. And then I was creative director at Science Museum in London. And then that took me up to 2012. And then I was like, I'm coming out of full-time work with institutions just because they were so obsessed with themselves. They were kind of missing what was happening within creative industry and contemporary art. And so I've been all over the place. I've got comfortable with the idea of not having a career but a practice, and I write and I publish and I curate and I consult in the commercial world, and I go where I think is the most interesting to go
for you.
And that, well, it's like, how do you want to look at it? Do you want to look that you handled a really difficult political situation in an institution really well? And I was like, no, I want to say I did this and I participated in this and I worked with these people and I went here and I'm overwhelmed with the experience of being in Qatar. I'm exhausted, but I'm also overwhelmed because it's one of those beautiful moments where you realize how little you know. And it's like, that's the beauty of participating, is you realize how little you know.
Yeah, and also the freedom to choose the product that you feel passionate about, and not being in an institution and not having the regard to decide what product you want to work in. So as freelancing, you choose the people, you choose the institutions, you choose the collaboration you want to do. And was it your first experience in the region? No.
Yeah.
Through تصوير.
Yeah, it was.
Okay,
and it was really, it came through, I mean, obviously this will be edited out, but it came through meeting Sheikh Mayasa, and she making this proposition of like, how would festivals support post-oil economy in Qatar? And that did, and all my frustrations of years of writing and teaching and being with institutions, that just seemed, it's part of what I think interests me now, is only being interested in people who are dedicated to there being a future, not a vested interest in keeping things as they have been. There's nothing in it for me. There's nothing in it, I don't think, for human beings. And I think it's about who's really thinking about the future. And so I just gravitated towards that. And it's so vast a question, but it's the right question to be asking in a place like Qatar. So, and yeah, I mean, obviously I'm still massively ignorant of a highly, I probably got as far as saying it's a really complex cultural situation to be working in, but I wouldn't have missed it for the world. I mean, I've been in America racializing my whiteness during an incredible moment in American history. And I feel like I've been really lucky. I really understand exactly what you're saying about it being a moment where the region understands itself and articulates itself, and it's full of so many possibilities and energies. And I feel really lucky that the last few years for me have been learning that and seeing that, and I really believe it. And I sort of just come back to America, and it's like I'm just preparing myself for people to go, so how was Dubai? And you're like, oh, no, I can't talk about it. I can't talk to you about it.
Leave me alone. Yeah, with all the cliches. And I've been working lately in Saudi Arabia. I spent 4 months, and every time I come, yesterday I was having dinner at my sister's, and they were like, oh, Saudi Arabia, they're cutting hands, and women, they can go in the streets. I'm like trying to explain, and they're like shocked. They're like, are you sure this is Saudi Arabia? Like, yeah, it has been changing and liberalizing for like the last 4 years, but because the idea we had about Saudi Arabia was so stagnating for like almost 30 years that the image is staying. And when I was in Ethiopia, it was the same thing. I go to Ethiopia to this beautiful festival called Addis Photo Festival. And I was with Salih Bashir and Fathi Sahrawi and Abdul Shanel. And I was going there, and everyone was like, oh, you're not going to find food, you're going to be starving. And we had the best food in Ethiopia. We had so much food. So that's exactly why I think that Taswir is important, because it will enable many photographers through the grants to keep producing work and to start building our own narratives. And we are new in that. I think in Southeast Asia, I think even in Latin America, this work has been done already for a couple of decades. But in Africa and in the Wana region, it's still fresh, and there is everything to do at the moment. I just see that there is everything to do. Yeah, cool. Well, Charlotte, thank you so much for your kindness and for this beautiful time spent with you.
It's been really great, and it won't be the last.
Yeah, and I wish you all the best, and I hope to talk to you very soon.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Ciao.